What is going on, YouTube? Another video coming at you from the Washington Command Post. My name is JD or Commander Plank, whatever you want to call me. I'm going to do a video. It's the first time I've actually done a live stream. I've actually have a computer that can probably handle a live stream. So that is why I'm doing a live stream today. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into the content of this video. This video is kind of like a state of the union or state of the whatever you want to call it for the Washington football team. Washington right now, this offseason, we haven't really done much. We've retained a couple players and we've added Carson Wentz. That's pretty much the extent of what we've done. We've retained J.D. McKissick. We've retained some depth pieces. I think his name Wise, Sly. Not really too much, but we did really upgrade at the quarterback position. I want to talk about that real quick. A lot of things have been thrown around about like Carson Wentz. I think 99.9% of our fan base, other than like the 0.1% is just nuts. We can agree that Carson Wentz is an upgrade from Taylor Heinicke. I think we can all agree on that, right? Right. Give me a thumbs up if you agree on that. We can all agree on that. Okay. He's an upgrade. As much as I like Taylor Heinicke, and as much as I do think that our offensive coordinator didn't do a great job of playing to his strengths. Carson Wentz can literally spin out of a sack and throw the ball 50 yards through the air with a flick of his wrist. He's that good. For the last couple of years, I've said on this video, I'd love to have Carson Wentz on Washington. He's that good a quarterback. I think a lot of things he's dealt with had to do with a lot with coaching. But he's definitely an upgrade. He immediately comes in and makes Washington better. He makes Terry McLaurin better. Terry McLaurin before could not blow the top off a defense because as much as I like Taylor Heinicke, he does not have the arm strength. He might be able to throw it deep, but he doesn't have a zip. He can't get it there without lobbing it up and putting a lot of air under it, and that gives the defense time to recover. Carson Wentz doesn't have to put air under it. He can flick his wrist and throw the ball 50 yards. That's just what he can do, okay? So he automatically makes Terry McLaurin better. So Terry McLaurin, before, people could just play up on him because they don't have the threat of him going by him. Now Terry McLaurin is a great route runner. Now Terry McLaurin his route tree just enhance. This is better because you can't jam him on the line. You got to give him a cushion because he can go behind you because now someone can throw it deep. So automatically Terry McLaurin gets significantly better. Terry McLaurin in the last 2 years has got 1,000 yards receiving both years. He should have had 1,000 yards rookie year if he wouldn't have got injured against the Giants. But he got 1,000 yards the last 2 seasons with a quarterback that can't throw the ball deep. Any quarterback he played with in the last 2 years has not throw the ball deep. So that has been completely taken out of his repertoire in his game. So he's gotten his yards elsewhere, getting the hard yards. This is going to be a lot easier for Terry McLaurin to get his yards. This is the best receiver that Carson Wentz has played with. You can say what you want. Alshon Jeffrey was not anywhere near as good as McLaurin. Alshon Jeffrey had some talent, but he wasn't peak Alshon Jeffrey when he played with the Eagles. He is getting peak Terry McLaurin, a good Terry McLaurin. Okay. De'Ami Brown immediately turns into a much better player because De'Ami Brown is not a polished route runner like Terry. He literally has the deep threat. He led, I'm pretty sure in college, he led if someone wants to do it in a comment, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure he led the nation in like air yards, like downfield. He caught the ball when he was in college, De'Ami Brown. And Terry McLaurin, like I said, and I love the guy, but he couldn't throw the ball deep. So De'Ami Brown's effectiveness was completely eradicated last year in his rookie year. His rookie year basically got a mulligan because he didn't have the ability to get the ball thrown deep. And that was pretty much his ace. That's his ace in the hole. That was his ability, and that was taken out of his hands. So that's out of there. This is where a lot of people who argue that Fitzpatrick would have been better for Washington, you have an argument because Fitzpatrick can throw the ball deep. He has a cannon for an arm. He would have been able to make Terry McLaurin that much more effective. He would have been able to make De'Ami Brown a more effective player his rookie season. So that alone is what I mean by a force multiplier. He automatically makes McLaurin. He automatically makes McLaurin. He automatically makes De'Ami Brown better receivers. What he also does, he automatically makes our running game a lot better. So now this is like going to be skewed, and people can probably skew some stats, but I'll just give my opinion on this. I think Carson Wentz threw 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year on a team where it was very well known when he was going to throw. Okay, this team ran, and then when they got in the hole, bail us out on third down. And that's what his routine was. He wasn't playing to his strengths. As much as they had a great running game with Indianapolis, they didn't play to his strengths really much. I just personally believe that. I don't think so. So here's what's going to happen. You already have guys backing off because now our receivers can beat you over top. So they're going to play back a little further. Safeties play back a little further. Now the running game gets better. The running game is going to get better because of Taylor Heinicke, you could play up. And our running game was actually solid last year in some games. I think, what's his name, abandons the run pretty quickly. Turner. That's personal opinion. I think he abandons the run way too often, or he's very predictable on the run. Let me be a better way to put it. But this is automatically going to make him much more effective. Make all of our running backs more effective. Carson Wentz at any time, the play action is going to be better because if you're going to play up, well, first off, it's going to open up the running game because you can't blitz as much. You can't play close to the line as much because you have the threat of going deep. That's the first thing. Second, because you have that threat, they're going to play back, which opens up the running game. And then guys are constantly going to be taking steps forward to fill the running game from more yards deep. So then that's going to open up play action. And guys are going to be backpedaling to recover rather than just being there and then getting to their spots. So I think it opens up everything. This is where a quarterback is the one position that's a force multiplier. And I think Carson Wentz does that. Like I said, I like Taylor Heinicke, but he's going to be career backup. He unless he can learn to throw the ball deep, it's going to be his thing. If you're watching this live stream, you can comment down below if you have any questions you want me to answer, any like thoughts or opinions or counter arguments to whatever I say. All right, it's an open stream. I just talk about some topics I have on my phone while I'm doing this. Okay. So yeah, the adding to Carson Wentz definitely takes a lot of pressure off a lot of things. Takes a lot of pressure off the offensive line. You don't have to worry too much about more guys at the line. Carson Wentz could do a lot better of pre-snap reads than Terry McLaurin could. Or I'm sorry, not Terry McLaurin. Taylor Heinicke could. So yeah, this is a definite improvement for Washington. We are going to see how good Scott Turner really is. He's kind of had the crutch the last couple of years that I personally, in my opinion, if you don't know it, I don't think he's that good an offensive coordinator. I think he's very predictable. I think he calls some very dumb plays that make him look smart, like he always creative, but he calls it bad times and it kills drives. I can go through a whole season and just point out plays where he's just calling dumb plays that don't need to be done. We got momentum going, keep it going. Don't do some dumb trick play. Just to make it look cute or make yourself look smart or whatever. I think he does that way too much. I think he needs to be focused on moving the ball, getting points on the board, and that needs to be his focus, not trying to look cool or whatever case may be. That's just my opinion of him. But the last couple of years, last 2 years specifically, he's had a kind of excuse. He's had Dwayne Haskins, who's horrible. He's had Kyle Allen. It wasn't bad. I don't think Kyle Allen actually was bad at running his offense. I just didn't think he had a lot of opportunity. Then you had Alex Smith was another opportunity or another guy. I think Alex Smith probably could throw a deep ball. It's just not his forte. He can't hit the outside hashes that well. He can throw it, just not accurate. And then, like I said, I think Fitzpatrick probably would have unlocked the offense the way it's envisioned, I guess is the best way to put it. But Taylor Heinicke doesn't. I think Taylor Heinicke has some other skill sets that Scott Turner just doesn't play to. And this is where I don't like Scott Turner either, as a good offensive coordinator. And this is why, if anyone's wondering why Mitch Trubisky was a hot commodity this offseason to be signed somewhere, it's because he had a coach, and I can't think of his name right now. He coached the Bears. I can't think of him right now. Mike something. Matt Nagy. There we go. Matt Nagy. He had a coach in Matt Nagy who coached him. And to be fair, he did get Matt Nagy's offense to the playoffs twice. And if it wasn't for a double doink, he would have got past the first round of playoffs. You don't know what he could have done. They had a good defense, and the offense was good enough, I guess. But the reason why he's so popular is because Matt Nagy gets rid of him. Because Matt Nagy could use the excuse like, oh, he's just a bad quarterback. If I get a good quarterback, I can do much better. They brought in Foles, and they also they drafted Fields. And they did not cater the offense to Fields. So now everyone's like, okay, obviously he's just trying to fit circles or square pegs in the round holes. He doesn't know how to cater his offense to his skill set because he did not use Justin Fields correctly last year the way he should have. Justin Fields has a very specific skill set, and he didn't play to that. So now there's this allure out there, like maybe he's not playing to this player's skill set either, Mitch Trubisky. Maybe Mitch Trubisky's a little bit better than he would give him credit for. That's why there was so much allure for Mitch Trubisky this offseason. Okay. So look at Washington. Washington, there's not gonna be an excuse for what's going on with Scott Turner. There's not an excuse out there. He's gonna have a good quarterback, hopefully, if Carson Wentz stays healthy, knock on wood. If Carson Wentz stays healthy, we're not going to have excuses this offseason. We're going to have a ironclad, definitive answer onto how good or bad Scott Turner is at calling plays. So that's what the Carson Wentz trade does for us. Now, here's the downside of the Carson Wentz trade. We did lose some draft picks. Now, I originally didn't like the trade. I didn't like the trade. I didn't mind giving up 2 picks. And also didn't mind the money. I didn't like both. I didn't like the fact that we had to take on all $28 million. I didn't like the fact that we lost 2 picks in the trade. I wouldn't have minded either one. Like if we had to give up 2 picks and we got him and we'd have like split the cap with them, that'd been fine. They take on his guaranteed money and we pay the other $13 million or whatever, and that would have been fine with me. Or if we just got him in free agency. However, I understand that Washington had to do this to guarantee they get a quarterback, because there's nothing to say if they cut him. There's nothing to say he's going to sign here. Okay. And then we're getting Baker Mayfield or we're getting Marcus Mariota or something like that. So there's nothing to guarantee that. But initially when it happened, I wasn't happy about either one. I'd have been okay with just the money. I'd have been okay with just the picks. But I wasn't happy with both. But I've come around, and just like I've come around to the name, Washington Commanders, I've come around to the Carson Wentz trade, because now we don't have to worry. It is such a weight, probably off of Ron, probably off the entire team, but Ron and the coaching staff, to not have to worry about quarterback, to have what you think. And we may be right, and he may be dead wrong, but he may be way right, and he might have hit the jackpot getting a franchise quarterback for a second and a third. So we don't know yet. But we don't. For all we know, this is the guy. And we got him pretty cheap, and it's so much weight off of I would say the fan base too. I mean, the weight's off my shoulders. I don't have to worry about quarterback. I know who our quarterback is. I mean, if we had to roll with Heineke, I was content with that. I didn't know who we were going to draft, so there's a lot of different things that could have happened. But I'm happy with Carson Wentz. I hope everyone else is happy with Carson Wentz. I don't have any comments yet. There's a lot of people, some people watching with no comments yet. Comment down below. Just say hi. And I'll say hi back. I'll give you a shout out. So, yeah, I'm happy with the Carson Wentz trade. And now here's the downside of the Carson Wentz trade. For the Washington now had to maneuver some guys in the free agency, either by cutting or restructuring. Maybe there's more restructuring to come, but we had to cut some guys. Now, the one makes sense to me. Both of them actually don't make too much sense to me, because we didn't really. The Flowers one makes sense because $10 million, and you're going to get a guy for less, and he's probably graded better. It's okay. That one doesn't make sense. That may make sense to me. You let Brandon Sheriff go in free agency. I'm okay with that. Brandon Sheriff, to me, he's actually lower graded than Wes Schweitzer. I mean, you can just go up Pro Football Focus. You can skew those numbers whichever way you want. But he was graded better than Brandon Sheriff, Wes Schweitzer was. So take that with a grain of salt. He's still a good player. Brandon Sheriff is going to be a fantastic player. But to me, that just shows he never wanted to be here. But it is what it is. I hope he has a good career. I hope nothing happens to him. I hope he stays healthy. I mean, wasn't healthy for us very often, but I hope he stays healthy. But the the Eric Flowers cut made sense to me because we get a guy cheaper, yeah, we freed up some cap space. The one that doesn't make sense to me is Matt Ioannidis. The Matt Ioannidis, letting Tim Settle walk and then also cutting Matt Ioannidis doesn't make sense to me. If we just let Tim Settle walk and then kept Matt Ioannidis or restructured Matt Ioannidis, I've been okay with that. Or if we signed Tim Settle and cut Matt Ioannidis, I've been okay with either one of those options. So you got to look at, like, Washington right now is kind of looking at we're like thin on the defensive line right now. Our defensive line, like defensive tackles, we have Payne, who's on a 1-year deal right now, unless we get an extension, which is possible. What's up, man? Jay Martell, nice to have you on, man. Welcome to the Washington Command Post, first ever live stream we've ever done on here. So thank you for watching. What was I talking about? Washington's really thin. really thin right now on the defensive line. We have Jerron Payne, who's on our his contract for 1 year. And then Jonathan Allen, he's contracted for a couple of years, so he's good there. But Jerron Payne, after this year, we only have one. And if either one get injured, who's our backup? We had Tim Settle and we had Matt Ioannidis, which is a very good rotation. They both had about 40 or like 45 to 60% of our snaps consistently. So they played a lot. What are we going to make that up with? I think it's going to be addressed in the draft. I'll get to that in a little bit, but it did make sense to cut both. I thought one of the two should have been kept. I thought Tim Settle would walk, and I was fine with that because I thought we were going to keep Matt Ioannidis. Now, for all we know, there's more things coming. For all we know, there's more things coming. What are we going to do in free agency from here on out? I really don't think we're going to get much. I think Ron's going to wait till near the end of free agency, or at least everyone else has basically spent up all their money, and all that's left is guys that couldn't get a big deal done, and no one else can afford them, or no one else has the money to sign them, and Ron's going to do that. He does it every year. He's very good at that. As much as Ron is nicknamed Riverboat Ron, I call him, card counting Ron. He consistently every year gets a value piece in free agency that ends up panning out and being very successful. It's first year here, he did so many of them. He did Ronald Darby was a value piece. He did another defensive end from. Did you see that they acquired? I did not see that, so I'm gonna have to look that up sometime within this. Do you know the name? If you get the name, I'll look it up. Garrett Kunze. But let's try to thought again. What was I talking about? Shoot, lost my train of thought. Free agency. We're gonna get Ron is consistently good at getting guys in free agency at like the last minute. His first year here, we got so many guys: Wes Schweitzer, Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissick. What was left? Was it Cornelius Lucas? Did we get him on? I think we got him. Ronald Darby. So we got a bunch of guys on like super cheap deals that end up panning out and being fantastic for us. So Ron's very good at that. Right? Ron's very good at that. He's very good at getting guys on these cheaper deals. Last year, the two guys we signed, now they didn't pan out and play very much last year, but William Jackson III, if you look at his market value going into the offseason last year, we got him below market value. And Curtis Samuel, same thing. He was weighted at a higher amount, like about $15 million a year. We got him for less than that. So Ron's very good at waiting until the end of free agency to get those value picks. What I think we're going to want to do is with Washington, and I'm going to go on to the draft talk now, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the division. What I think Washington still needs, and you can comment down below if you disagree with me. What I think Washington still needs is right now Washington. Nice. Okay, I'll have to look him up. I have to look and see how good or bad he was. Washington needs in the draft. Well, what they need going forward right now. So free agency might actually get this as well. But what they're going for right now, they need is first they need a linebacker. You need a middle linebacker. You need a true middle linebacker. The problem with our defense right now is we don't have a middle linebacker. John Bostic, as much as I didn't like him, he was very important to the defense because he got everyone where they needed to be. He pretty much would tell Jamin Davis where to go, and Jamin Davis would go there, and he would put him in the right position to be much more successful. Without John Bostic, they tried to move Jamin Davis to middle linebacker. Didn't work. They tried to use Cole Holcomb. The most effective we have, and this is going to sound dumb, but go back and watch the tape for the second game we played against Philadelphia. The most effective we had was what's his name? Mayo. Mayo was the most effective middle linebacker we had this year. Like, we were actually much more effective against the run. We were much more effective overall as a defense with not OJ Mayo. That was a basketball player. What was his name? Derek Mayo? I don't know what his name is. I know his last name is Mayo. I know that much. So we need a middle linebacker. That's what we need, a true middle linebacker. Even if it's an older one, we need one that can actually put Washington in a spot where Jamin Davis can go and play outside linebacker. It's closer to the position he played in college. In college, he wasn't really a middle linebacker. He was kind of like a hybrid safety linebacker player. He has the athleticism to do that. And at outside linebacker, you can play a little bit more instinctual and with your athleticism. Whereas inside linebacker, you got to be like a floor general or a field general. You have to command the troops. You have to move pieces around. You got to be like a chess player like maneuvering people as like the line shifts, as things go on all at once, you have to maneuver it and try to move guys around and adjust everyone on the fly. Not Jamin Davis's strong suit. He's an athlete. He is a very good athlete. He's probably one of the best athletes. He's probably one of the best athletes on our team, maybe not in the league too. He's a very good athlete. I mean, he covered Kyle Pitts in college, and Kyle Pitts is a freakish athlete. Okay. So that's his strong suit. That is what he's meant to do. And he needs to be at the outside linebacker opposite of Cole Holcomb. And we need a middle linebacker. Bobby Wagner hasn't been signed yet. Hopefully we can get him. But somebody that is a pure middle linebacker that can do that would be ideal. That's where Landon Collins might have actually been okay to have him keep around, because he can kind of do that as a safety corner or safety linebacker hybrid. We didn't go that route. We cut him too. So that's what Washington is. Who? Jared Mayo. That's his name. So yeah, Bobby Wagner. I don't disagree with you, Jay Martell. I don't disagree. I think Bobby Wagner would be a great choice. My first pick was the kid out of I can't think of his name right now. Malik Jones, maybe, out of from Jacksonville. He was a middle linebacker cut by Jacksonville. That was who my first pick was. He's very athletic. That's a good option too. The kid from Pittsburgh, Joe Schubert. I live in Pittsburgh, so yes, I'm aware. I honestly thought he got signed. I didn't. But that's what Washington needs, is a middle linebacker. Middle linebacker is probably the priority need for the number one need they need is a middle linebacker. Right now, they're not playing anyone as a pure middle linebacker, and I think it the whole defense has to compensate for that. And I think it creates a lot of holes and a lot of mismatches and a really big lack of communication. We communicated much better with John Bostic 2 years ago. And now without a middle linebacker, we're kind of just we're shambled is the best way to put it. So that's the first thing Washington needs to get in this draft. The second thing they need, honestly, and this is going to sound dumb because we have so many, we've spent so many draft picks on this. I would say the priority would probably be offensive lineman, like another guard in the second round. That'd be the second thing I get. I know a lot of people are going to say wide receiver. I don't disagree with you that I don't think we actually need a wide. Let's say Curtis Samuel pans out. And we'll say Johnny Brown pans out. We can wait. If we spend another draft pick on a receiver, we have some receivers that are pretty good that we're developing. Like we got Cam Sims, we got Dax Milne. I think those two are good 3s and 4 or 4 and 5 receivers. And I think if Johnny Brown has the ability to go over the top like he's supposed to, like he's designed to do, like the way he was drafted to do, I think he could be a lot better in that regard. So I mean, if we keep just drafting receivers, we're never going to actually truly see if we can develop one. But I think this draft is just too good to not pick up someone somewhere, like in the 4th or 5th round, maybe a receiver. Not like as much as I want Chris Olave, I think he would be great opposite Terry. I do also want to see if money invested pays off with Curtis Samuel, and if a draft pick we've already spent on a receiver last year pays off with Johnny Brown. And if Cam Sims is given more opportunities with a better quarterback, can he pan out? Because we've had him for years and he's done well whenever he's targeted. It's just he doesn't get targeted as much, and he does things the right way. There's the reason why 2 regimes have done what they can to keep him around. And Dax Milne, we spent a draft pick on him last year, and I think he's solid. I think if Dax Milne, if I was coaching the team, I would told Dax Milne, fall around Adam Humphries. Do what that guy does and pick his brain for everything that you need to learn about being a receiver in the NFL. Pick his brain. That is the guy you need to learn from. And if that would have been the smart move, that I don't know, maybe they did do that. I hope so. But Dax Milne has a very similar skill set to Humphries, and and Humphries was very solid for you. He was always in a good spot whenever we really needed to get like a first down on 4th down and we needed to convert. He was always in the right spot. He was always a safety blanket. I don't know why he wasn't going to more. I don't think he was the primary option a lot. I think other things were, and I think Heinicke never got to that progression as much. But in desperation, he knew where the safety valve was all the time. So we do need receiver, but maybe not in the first couple of rounds. As much as they are very good receivers in the first couple of rounds, I think Washington's priority is linebacker. If we don't get one in free agency, I do think we need defensive line. We need a defensive lineman. We have to get a defensive end or defensive tackle. We have 2 defensive tackles. We have none drafted. I've done a couple mock drafts. The kid from I can't think of his name right now. The kid from Alabama consistently falls to Washington in the second round. I actually am team trade back. I think when you have a quarterback that takes up a decent amount of cap space, like Carson Wentz does, and we had to cut guys just to stay under the cap. I think your compensation for that, the way you counter that, is you trade back and you take a lot of the picks that you have. You get more picks, so you can fill a lot more role. Rookie contracts are cheaper than veteran contracts. Okay. So if we trade back, let's say we just trade back and get like just from 11th to 20th, and then we get like second and third. Those 2 extra picks are very crucial, and they can really fill some spots if we draft accordingly and draft the right talent. So like I said, middle linebacker is the number 1 priority right now in free agency / the draft. If we get, let's say hypothetically, we get Bobby Wagner, the next priority to me is probably going to be offensive. My priority is trade back and then get defensive line, offensive guard, maybe. Or if you can get a really good offensive tackle and move Cosme to guard and then just have Wes Schweitzer be a backup, that'd be fine too. Samuel Cosme plays better. The way he moves is better as a guard than a right tackle. But he could play either one. It doesn't really matter. He's that talented. He's a very talented. He's a very good pickup we had last year. I never doubted that for a second. I knew he was going to be good. He actually felt us in second. I was very surprised that he actually felt the second. So now I kind of want to move on to. I know someone's going to say we might need some things in the secondary. Ron is I don't want to say he's hard headed, but Ron is kind of a stickler for going with his gut. So if Ron plays some players and drafts some players, he has faith in that. He's said before. He's actually said this whenever we almost signed. Who was it? Eric Berry, maybe? I think it was Eric Berry. When we were looking to sign, what's his name? Landon Collins tore his ACL or his Achilles, whatever it was, 2 years ago. He talked to Eric Berry and he wanted to bring him on, but he didn't want to start him right away. He wanted to have someone from camp train because he's loyal to his guys. I think Ron's going to do that too. I think Ron's going to be loyal to his picks and loyal to his decisions he's already made and try to give them a chance. I think he thinks, I actually, think if they're healthy, it's going to be a great option. Benjamin St. Juste, Kyle Fuller, and William Jackson III, when healthy, are a very, very, very good 3-corner tandem that can be played in multiple different ways. Fuller is a much better slot corner. I just hope they use them to their strengths. William Jackson III just shut down man-to-man corner, and they played him all zone last year. That doesn't make sense. Why would you draft someone? Why would you sign someone that is a man-to-man corner and then have him play zone? I mean, this is what Washington does, I guess. I mean, we played man, and then we signed Josh Norman years ago, who is a zone corner from Carolina. Does that make sense to anyone else? Doesn't make sense to me, but that's just what Washington does, I guess. And I think Ron understands that when it comes to the safety position, we may draft somebody, but I think Ron is comfortable going forward. Do we think we need another tight end, or are you on with Bates as number 2 tight end? I do think we need another tight end. I actually wanted us to get Ertz, and then O.J. Howard was actually on the market pretty cheap, about $3.5 million. His market value was only 2.5, which is a great value for O.J. Howard. I thought we would go with him. I really want to hurt Ertz, but Ertz is going to get decent money. He's still very talented. He's still good. He's just up there in age. So, I thought he might want to come play with Wentz, but I think someone just offered more money. They had more money to offer, and that might be a better way to put it. So I do think we need another tight end. We might draft one. This is actually a very talented tight end draft. So that might be Ron's strategy when it comes to that. He's signed Logan Thomas to an extension. Logan Thomas is coming off as an ACL tear, and he might not be ready for week 1. So as of right now on our roster, we have John Bates and Sammis Reyes. That's the only 2 we have on our roster right now. So I do think we'll get a tight end somewhere. I don't know if we'll draft one. Like I said, we trade back and get more picks. It opens up ample possibilities for us. I've done a couple mock drafts, and there's a tight end that falls to the 4th round from Ohio. I can't think of his name right now. I just can't think of his name right now. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's from Ohio. I also like the guy. I think his last name's Kolar. I think he played for Iowa State. Iowa seems to put out some pretty good tight ends. So to answer the next question, this is from Garrett. Give me a 1 if I pronounce it right on this. Kunze. Give me a 2 if it's Kunze. I might be wrong. I'm talking about Garrett. I'll just say Garrett. So Garrett, to answer your question, what about pass rushers? Washington, I think Washington has great pass rushers. That's not our issue. The issue last year, and I did a YouTube video on this. It's a little further back in my channel. Okay, perfect. So now I pronounce your name. The problem last year that Washington had with their pass rushers, their pass rush wasn't bad. Their pass discipline was bad. If you watch the game, this happened a lot, and I have a video, and I can find it and link it if you really want it. I'll send it to you, where I showed how not being disciplined Chase Young and Montez Sweat was like affecting our defense. Montez Sweat Chase Young and Montez Sweat had basically one move. They were going so wide, guys were over pursuing them. They were over pursuing the quarterback, and the quarterback could just step up and roll. And early in the games, the guys were rolling around like, I'll answer that in one question. Let me answer Garrett's question first. And if you watch a lot of the earlier games, quarterbacks would step up and then be able to roll, and because Chase Young and Montez Sweat would over pursue them. Whereas if they just stayed in their lanes and stayed disciplined, they'd have had a lot of coverage sacks because that a lot of quarterbacks had to extend plays early in the season. That's how we got beat. But Chase Young and Montez Sweat were not being very disciplined when it comes to staying in their lanes. They were trying to just out athletic their opponent rather than being technically sound. And like I said, I love both of those guys. I think they're fantastic players. They're great pickups for our team. But I don't think our pass rush is something that we don't need to add pass rushers. We need to fix the pass rushers we have. If they're more disciplined, I think they were trying to go for glory. I think Ron said this before. A lot of players read the headlines and say, like, oh, these two are going to lead the league in sacks, and they're both going to get double-digit 20 sacks between the two of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They're reading the titles, and they're going for the sacks rather than going for their disciplines, and then the sacks will come by using the proper technique. And Ron hinted at that. He said that a couple times. And like I said, I have a video, if you want to check it out, is from it's probably like week 3 or 4, where I had it might have been flagged for copyright infringement because it did have a game film on it. But I did do a video about it where the guys were just not playing in their lanes at all. And it opened up the scramble game for quarterbacks a lot. And we played a lot of good quarterbacks this year, so it opened up way more than we needed. It just killed us. Our coverage was great, and then they just break down because you can't cover someone forever. I mean, I'm 34 and almost 300 pounds. And I mean, it's a bad example, but I mean, you can't cover someone for 10 seconds. I'm out of shape, so I can't run for more than 10 seconds anyway. So, but a corner and an athletic receiver, decent receiver, you can't cover them forever. Eventually, they're going to get open. Okay. And a good quarterback can even throw them open. So if you're covering them perfectly, they can still throw it to an area where you just can't get to because you can't cover everything. Now, moving on to Redskins, the Brave. What's up? What do you think about Drawing Payne? Do we need to replace him? I think we need him. I think he's a good player. I don't think anything wrong with him. But the problem is there's only so much money Washington's going to have to throw around. I mean, I think Terry McLaurin's a higher priority than Drawing Payne. I think Washington. Well, let me backtrack for 2 seconds. I think Washington right now needs Payne. They only have Jonathan Allen and him at defensive tackle. I think Wise, defensive tackle Wise, he plays defensive end as well. He's a utility offensive or defensive lineman. We have him, but none of those guys are the caliber of Drawing Payne other than Jonathan Allen. So there's a reason why we'll invest a lot of first-round picks into this. I think Ron's going to try to keep him and try to keep McLaurin. But I do like Drawing Payne. I honestly thought that last year we were going to trade Drawing Payne or Jonathan Allen. I think one of the two. I would like to keep them both. I think our defensive line is about to have like a really, really good year once they put it all together, and we have a middle linebacker that can actually orchestrate the back end of the defense. But we need to keep Drawing Payne, but we need to replace his backups. We lost both of their backups. That's the biggest priority I have right now. Drawing Payne is a next year problem. I mean, you can solve it this year with an extension, but he's a next year problem. Right now, the immediate problem that Washington has is they don't have a middle linebacker, and they also don't have depth at the defensive line like they had last year. Last year, you could have Drawing Payne out for a game, and it was okay. Tim Settle and Matt Ioannidis could rotate and consistently, and you were fine. this year, right now, if we played a game today, we only have two defensive tackles that have significant game experience, and there's a massive drop off. There wasn't a huge drop off between those two, and then their backups. Their backups are going to start other places. Tim Settle got signed the first day of free agency. Matt Ioannidis would have too, but we didn't cut him until the second day of free agency. So I think that's a greater priority. But I do think Deron Payne is a good player. And I think this is where Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne were actually hinting at this last year too. What I said about the defensive ends, how they weren't playing, where they weren't paying or playing disciplined to their discipline, playing in their lanes. They were hinting at a lot last year. Jonathan Allen was one of the biggest ones hinting at that. So I heard from another fan talk about wanting Matthews, so I was just curious. So here's the thing about Matthews. I like Matthews. The problem is we did sign a free safety. We signed a safety in Bobby McCain, and I just think Tyrann Matthews is going to be worth a lot more money than Ron's willing to pay. Like I said, I think Ron, goes by his gut. I think Ron goes by he believes in what he's picked, his players he's picked, and I think he's going to go with what he has now. Washington, I don't know if they still have Jeremy Reeves, but I think he's somewhere in their – he could still be in their plans. Jeremy Reeves is there. Cameron Curl's there. They have Bobby McCain. They drafted Forrester, whatever his last name is. They drafted him last year. They could probably move another player there to they can move another player to play safety if they're athletic enough. Jamin Davis could be an option at that. So there's tons of things that Ron could do when it comes to secondary that might not need to be Matthews. I think Washington has to make a decision with free agency. Are they going to sign a big name safety or a big name middle linebacker? I think middle linebacker puts things together a little bit better. I think that solves your defensive issues. I think that solves a lot of problems. Whereas I think safety, it's going to solve a problem, but it's not going to solve all of them. It's still going to make Jamin Davis better because he doesn't have that floor general or the field general directing him where to go. So that is where the trade-off comes when it comes to I think middle linebackers is more important right now to get on our defense. Ron needs his Luke Kuechly. He needs that guy in the middle. That's why I didn't like John Bostic, but he was very good at getting people in the right spots. So what was I talking about? Tight end. I already talked about tight end. So now I want to talk about kind of the state of the division. Where's Washington looking right now? So Washington right now, where are we? We're kind of trending. I think Washington's trending up. Even though we lost some depth on the defensive line, we still have our 4 starters, okay? Both defensive ends and both defensive tackles, all 4 first-rounders. We're trending up. And you look at the rest of the division. I don't think the Giants have done anything crazy in free agency, and their offensive line wasn't very good last year. So that's part of that. They haven't gotten any better. Eagles offensive line, they're not loaded with they were an aberration last year. They went from one of the worst offensive lines in the league in 2020, and last year they shot up the rankings in running. I just think they were very well schemed and they played to Jalen Hurts' talent. I think he shocked people, just like with RG3's first year here. I think people were shocked with the type of offense they were running, and it was just the unpredictability of it. And then they got figured out the second year, and then so on and so forth. I think that's going to have it. I think you're going to have a regression to the mean when it comes to the Eagles. But I think Washington's running up. We went from, I would say we had the 3rd best quarterback in the division. I would say the worst. As much as I like him, he's not better. Daniel Jones is a better player than Taylor Heinicke. He's got a better deep ball. But I mean, I would take Heinicke over him in a game for my life. Heinicke's going to go all out. He's going to give you all. But Daniel Jones, if you look at skill set, is a better quarterback. Jalen Hurts is better than Taylor Heinicke. And then obviously Dak Prescott. I think he's a little overrated, but I think he is the best quarterback in this division. Let's look at Dallas for a second. Dallas still has their quarterback, which costs a lot of money. They've lost one of their all-pro offensive linemen in Lionel Collins. I think he signed with the Bengals. And then Washington also Dallas also, apparently Zach Martin is requested a trade, so they've given him permission to seek out trades. And they lost Amari Cooper. They did sign Michael Gallup, but that's just even keel. But they lost Amari Cooper. And I don't know what your opinion of Amari Cooper is, but I think Amari Cooper is a very good receiver. I think I think there's certain things about him. He got to play to his strengths. And I think after a while, you just weren't getting his strengths out of him. So that happened. And then you lost Randy Gregory. So their defensive line got worse. He was a starter. So I think Cowboys are trending down a little bit. They didn't really retain a lot of like their high-end caliber guys. Washington didn't lose. We lost Brandon Sheriff, but his replacement was ranked better than him anyway, according to Pro Football Focus. I mean, like I said, you can skew those numbers however you want. So I think Washington's trending up. I still think the most talented roster in the division is still Dallas, especially offensively. But I think Washington's trending up, and I also think Dallas is going to regress to the mean as well. They had a defense. They went from a night and day defense from what it was in 2020. In 2021, it was a better defense, but you're going to regress back to the medium. I think Washington's going to progress to the medium. We drastically dropped last year on how good we were. I think that Jack Del Rio, you notice this if you watch the games. And I've noticed this 2 years in a row now with Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera has a tendency that he takes about 4 weeks to get his team figured out, 4 to 5 weeks, sometimes as long as 6. But by the bye week, he had it figured out. He had it figured out how to play his defense and be more effective. And he had it figured out how to play his offense and be more effective. Now, he had a little more consistency this year on the offensive side. Got to stop signing all these. I don't disagree with you, David. We signed a lot of players from Carolina. I think it's just because Ron's familiarity. I think it's a plus side and a downside. Honestly, I'll get into that. I'll answer that question here in a minute. But lost train of thought. I think a lot of Ron's teams the last 2 seasons they've basically started out a little rocky, and then the defensive side at least is kind of figured themselves out around like the middle of the season, around like week 8 or 9. The first year here when Landon Collins tore his ACL. Or is it ruptured Achilles? Whichever. I think it was Achilles. I keep saying that wrong. I think it was Achilles. They had the defense figured out. The defense got figured out, and they were stopping teams. They were stopping the run. They were stopping the pass. They were doing a lot of good things with the defense around midseason. They weren't doing it early in the season. They did it the first game, and then they had a couple games where they just trailed off, and then they picked it back up. Last year, I think it was around the Denver game, actually, we started doing well defensively, and then the offense just fell off because many different reasons. His plans won't work in today. I'll get to that in a minute. But around midseason, that's when they pick up. That's when Washington started picking up. They started playing better defense, like against Denver. And then we had our bye week, and then we came back and we spanked I wouldn't say spanked, but we beat the reigning Super Bowl champions, went on a 4-game winning streak. And I think we almost came back and beat Dallas, but there's a lot of games last year Washington would have won and here's where Carson Wentz, like, let's just look at it right now in a vacuum. If you take last year, there's 4 games that we could have won. Chargers game, Saints, Denver, and I would say the Eagles game. The second Eagles game, we could have won that game. So if you look at those 4 games, let's just pop out Taylor Heineke and plug in Carson Wentz. Do we win those games? I say we do. I say those games have a drastically different outcome with Carson Wentz at the helm. Could other games have been changed too? Yeah, but I'm not asking that question right now. Could does Carson Wentz make those games a little bit better? Yes, he does. Yes, it does. Those games were all close games that we could have won and we didn't win. But I think Carson Wentz wins those games. Now, last year we had a first place schedule and we had the hardest schedule in the league, and we still won about half our games. We won 7 games. Okay. We could have won 4 more with a couple of ball bounces here and there. Okay. So we're looking at what could have been with a good quarterback, a 10, 11 win season. What are we going to do this year? We have a third place schedule, and I have the schedule in front of me, and let's see if I still have it up on my phone. And that's what I wanted to look at with this one is I want this with this live stream. I kind of want to go over Washington's options. So Washington home games this year: Dallas, Giants, Eagles. We can win. We can beat everyone on the division. We've proven that over the years. Vikings. Vikings, very good offense. I don't know about their defense. Packers. I think Packers are about to have a skid. They had the best receiver in the league and the best quarterback in the league every year for the last like 3 or 4 years, and now they don't have either. Now they don't have the receiver. He's gone. They're going to replace him somehow, but it's not going to be the same productivity. And Aaron Rodgers has the thing with trust. He has to trust a player. That's why in certain games he only goes to Devontae Adams. So I had him in fantasy. He'd always go to Devontae Adams. Titans. I think Titans are going to be a tough game. That's going to really test our defensive line. Jaguars. I think Jaguars are a very winnable game. Same Cleveland. That's assuming I don't know the Deshaun Watson situation. He might be suspended for a year. He might be suspended for 6 games. Atlanta Falcons are very winnable. They're pretty much in a rebuild. They don't even have Matt Ryan anymore. They have Marcus Mariota. And then our away games, we have Dallas Giants and Eagles. The Bears, winnable game. Lions, very winnable game. Texans, very winnable. Like there's literally 5 games here that that I'd say they're just I wouldn't say easy pickings, but they're games that we can easily win if we just play decent. We just play pretty well. We don't have any turnovers and just play smart. They're winnable games. There's a lot more winnable games this year, and we don't have to play the elite of the elite every game like we did last year. Last year we had a run of like, oh man, we had a run of like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, like just all in a row, just all of them, bam, 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 bam. Even Matt Ryan, who's a good quarterback, bam, 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 right in a row. I don't know if we played Stafford. Did we play Stafford last year? No, I don't think we played Stafford. So we just had like a slew of very, 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 very good receivers last year. Or good quarterbacks that we ended up playing last year. So if you look at the division, what has the Giants done? They've done nothing really. I don't think they've drastically improved. I don't think they've done anything great. They were bad last year. They're going through a coaching change again. So I don't think they're in a good spot. And I don't know how much you do or don't trust. I don't know how much you do or don't trust Aaron Jones. But I mean, I don't think he's been healthy enough and has stuff around him consistent enough for him to be good. And coaching, he could be very good, and the coaching was bad. That's where you can chalk it up right now. So there's a lot of question marks with the Giants, but I don't think the Giants are that good. Look at the Eagles. I think the Eagles are. I think they shocked people with how good they were last year. People weren't prepared for them, and they're going to regress to the mean a little bit. They had their offensive line. They just did what I think Washington should do. Washington should commit to the run heavily, and they did not do that. The Washington didn't commit to the run the way the Eagles did. The Eagles were very good around the football. I wish Washington ran the football like that. But I think they're going to regress a little bit. Their defense isn't super great. And I don't think they're sold on Jalen Hurts, and I think he knows that because there was a lot of buzz about they actually sent someone to Philadelphia to Houston to investigate Deshaun Watson before they committed to trading. So I don't think they're sold on him. And then, like I said, Dallas, they lost a lot of things. What did Washington do? We improved at the most important position on the field. That's what Washington did. No other team has that big of an increase. So I think Washington's trending up, and I think it's going to be an interesting season. We got to see what other picks we have. Let's say tomorrow we all wake up, all 9 of us that's watching this, we all wake up tomorrow and we look, and Washington has signed some tight end or some middle linebacker, Joe Schobert or Bobby Wagner, and we're solidified the middle linebacker position. We can be confident we go into this season. Now we just need to get rookies to fill holes. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing with Washington. So I'm going to leave it about 5 minutes. If anyone has questions, put them in there and I'll answer them. And then this stream will be over. Well, we'll do 10 minutes. We'll take it all the way till 60 minutes. So Ron's old school mentality needs to change. His plans won't work in today's NFL. I mean, he won 7 games with the hardest schedule, and I think Ron's a good coach. I think there's just some things about him that are just kind of quirks about him, more or less. Like I said, everyone calls him Riverboat Ron, and I think he's more card counting Ron. For someone who's supposed to be a riverboat, you got a franchise quarterback for a second and a third let's just assume this play pans out. Carson Wentz is fantastic this year, 4,000 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, maybe 10 interceptions. Let's just assume that. Ron got a franchise quarterback for a second and third rounder. That's card counting. That's not taking a huge risk. Let's say he invested the same amount of picks that the Browns invested in Deshaun Watson. That's a risk. Deshaun Watson could be suspended for 2 years, and being out of the league for a while, he could be bad. Do Baker Mayfield come to Washington compete with Carson Wentz? I don't think he will, and I don't think Washington, as much as I think Washington was going to pick a quarterback this year in the draft, I don't think they will. Carson Wentz, how do I want to put this without calling him mentally weak? I don't think he's mentally weak. I just think he can be fragile sometimes. And what I mean by that is Carson Wentz, quarterback, he's had some good seasons with Eagles. They drafted a quarterback in the second round, and it let it get to him. And I think like little things like that. So I don't know if bringing in another quarterback to give him competition. How are you going to – here's the thing. You're going to lose trust in your player if you bring in Baker Mayfield. How are you going to, as a coach, say, hey, you're our guy. I want you here. And then in the very next breath, you bring in another quarterback to compete with him. Okay? You can't do that. It throws it for a loop. Okay? You're gonna throw off any trust you've built with Carson Wentz, maybe confidence you've built with Carson Wentz. And I wouldn't do that. I think Carson Wentz comes in as quarterback 1. I think Taylor Heineke is your QB2. And I honestly think you might want to draft a later round. Like I think you can get like Carson Strong was one I personally liked. He was coming off an injury. He's going to need to sit anyway for a year. He'd be a great quarterback to get in like the late third or fourth round if you're looking to get a quarterback just to have on the roster. Because what's his name? Our third string quarterback we drafted a couple years. Can't think of his name. He might convert to tight end. But anyway, next question I have on here. I know we got a bunch of wide receivers, but is Drake London is there at 11? I don't think I can pass on him. He's 6'5" with speed. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I don't disagree with you. I think he's very good. I'm just saying we've invested a lot of time and money into the receiving core position, and we got a quarterback that makes our receivers we have better, and we can actually showcase their actual talent. I don't disagree with you. If we take Drake London, I'm not gonna get mad. I'm not gonna shed a tear about that. I would definitely agree with you that would be a fantastic pickup for Washington. I'm just saying that we've invested time in other players that we would miss out on. And getting if we still had just Heineke and we drafted him, makes sense because Heineke needs talent elevated around him to make him better. We have a quarterback that has the ability, and he hasn't done it. He did it okay last year. I actually think he had a great year last year. I think the whole team collapsed, and he got blamed for it. But Drake London is very good, and I think if we had Taylor Heineke or we had a rookie, that is the time you draft that guy like that, because now it makes Heineke better because he has a better talent around him. He has a bigger target to hit. But I mean, Carson Wentz is going to make him. He's going to make him better too. So yeah, if he's available, I'm not going to. And we draft him, I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to be able to say like, "What? We draft another receiver?" No, I'm not going to be mad about that. I've just made the point that we could probably use that pick to fill a more immediate role. We have wide receivers like we have. If we start right now, if we start our first game right now, we have. Let's assume that Curtis Samuel's healthy. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Yami Brown, or Cam Sims, or Dax Milne, guys we've already invested time into. Getting Drake London pushes one of those guys out the door, which, we want the best talent, we want the best team. So that makes sense. So that's not, you're right either way. We get them, it's good. If we don't get them, there's a reason why we didn't get them, and we had other immediate needs. So not a good question, Church. There is not enough cap left to bring Mayfield, so that's not even an option. I mean, what if they cut him? What if Colts cut him, or not Colts? Browns cut him. I mean, he's going to be on the roster right now anyway. He's going to cut him, and if they want to just cut him and say, you know what, we don't want the QB controversy between you and what's his name, get out of here. We can sign him. He could be signed for a dirt cheap deal with his guaranteed money still coming from the Browns. That's possible. I mean, there's always ways to do that. So About four more minutes if anyone else wants to throw a question out there. But as I'm talking, I want to thank everyone for chiming in. I'm going to start doing more of these live streams. I'll probably try to schedule more. If you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. It is Commander J Plank. And that way I will notify, I'll schedule more of these live streams so I can answer more questions like this. I actually really like doing this. I really like answering live questions like this. I didn't really talk too much about this, but I do think we should get a tight end. I talked a little bit about it, but we should get a tight end. Who should we draft with our first round pick? If we're at 11, I think Washington will probably draft a receiver. That's honest to goodness what I think we're going to do. I think Washington will draft a receiver. What do I think? What do I want us to do? I want us to trade back. I think Pittsburgh is looking to draft a quarterback. They're the perfect trading partner. They can trade up and draft Malik Willis, and we'll trade back to 20. And let's just say they give us a second and third this year to do that. I'll take the 20th overall pick. Chris Olave would be okay. And then we have another second and another third. That would be what I think. But I think we'll probably go best available. Best available seems to be a receiver, or there's also safety available. I don't think there's a lineman that'll be available then. I don't think I think it'd be a reach for a defensive lineman. If you go back to 20, you might grab one there. Yeah, Church. I agree with you. I just said that a while ago. You can't bring in Mayfield. Carson can't handle the. I don't think it's that he can't handle the competition. I just think you just told him, like, we just had a press conference where he said, like, yeah, Ron said, we believe in you. You're somewhere where you're believed in. And here's Baker Mayfield to take your job just in case you suck. That's basically what it would be if you brought in Baker Mayfield. So, and got about 1 more minute left, maybe 2. So, yeah. Like I said, follow me on Twitter, Commander J Plank. I post stuff all the time, comment all the time, do polls all the time. I'll follow back too. I'll do that as well, just to have the dialogue going all season long. Yeah. I just think trading. I'm always for team trade back. I mean, unless you have an ironclad player like you need. QB shouldn't be an option. I think we go all in on Wentz this year, see what happens, and be hopeful getting him his confidence back. This will be the first time he has an actual. I completely agree with you. As soon as this ends, you can actually watch the entire stream from the beginning. In the beginning, I said this straight up. He makes Terry McLaurin, he makes Curtis Samuel, he makes all those guys way better. Adrian. In the beginning of the video, I talked about why getting Carson Wentz was so important, why it makes the team so much better. I think that's going to finish it up. I'll give like 1 more minute for 1 more question, or maybe 2. Depends on how many questions are thrown in there. 1 more minute, and then I'll pretty much sign out. But yeah. In the beginning of the video, Adrian, I 100% talked about Carson Wentz is a force multiplier. A good quarterback is a force multiplier. Makes everything better. Makes everything on the team that much more effective. And that's the way it is. What tight ends are you hoping for? I'm actually kind of hoping we draft one. I kind of hope we draft one. There's 2 in the draft. Like, I can't remember the guy's name. It's from Ohio State. Played with Ohio State. Javon Landry. Okay, so these are the last 2 questions. Tight end, I'm hoping to get either Kalar he plays for Iowa State. I think you can draft him. We can get him probably in the 4th round. Hold on, tell me, give me 30 seconds. I think we draft him, or I can't think of his name right now, but it's kid out tight end out of Ohio State. Very good tight end. And then what do I think of Landry? Landry, he's a good player, but we have a lot of receivers. If we're going to get a receiver, might as well draft one. We can get them a lot cheaper. We can get them for longer deals. And we can develop them. We can get one. This is such a loaded draft with receiver. We can get one probably in the later rounds, and we'd be perfectly fine. But okay, guys, it has been just short of an hour, about 30 seconds short. So I'm going to call it. I appreciate everyone watching. Like I said, follow me on Twitter, Commander J Plank, and have a good one. Hail to the Commanders, or salute to the Commanders. All right, see you.